Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and hello everybody. My name is Amir and I am here to talk about what is happening in Iran, the Persian Gulf, and its implications in the world economy and its possible implications throughout Eurasia. So far, and indeed it has been widely accepted that the US has been unable to achieve any of its objectives. In fact, some of the most senior voices in neoconservatism have voiced such in the latest political publications. Iran has shown the world, and in particular the global south, that its capabilities have superseded those of the United States and Israel. It has been able to not only contest but completely secure the Persian Gulf and the Straits of Hormuz. It has control over not just the world's oil trade but the natural gas trade and the sulfur, helium, and fertilizers that come out from the Persian Gulf. The GCC has lost not only military but also industrial capabilities that might take them a decade or more to be completely restored. And not all GCC members see eye to eye in how to go about dealing with Iran. The UAE has gone its own route. It has pledged almost complete support to the US and Israel. It is going it alone. Saudi Arabia is now forced into a difficult position. It is a nominal member of BRICS, even though it has not accepted its position, and it does not have the military capabilities to withstand Iran. Yet at the same time, its industry has suffered considerable damage over the past 2 months, and it has very good reason to go against the US. It has already initiated oil trade in yuan, and it will also play a key role in modernizing the rest of the Arabian Peninsula, given its considerable wealth of resources, something the rest of the GCC members do not have. Qatar, which was host to many radar stations and some of the most important US bases in the region, all of which have been completely destroyed, is now finding itself on the back foot. It has attempted, with some success, to remain neutral, and it has so far shied away from any direct confrontation against Iran. A wise move, considering that it does not have much of a military or even a population. That just leaves us with Kuwait, Bahrain, and Kuwait has been unable to export even a single barrel of oil since April of this year, and is now looking to economic stagnation. It does not have the wherewithal to maintain its society, and there is a serious chance that the people will overthrow the regime and vote in a referendum to accede back to Iraq. Bahrain, which is currently ruled by the unpopular Al Khalifa family, will also see similar uprisings soon to follow. This leaves us with the only victor, Iran. Iran has suffered next to no damage of its military or its industry. It has taken severe damage in terms of civilian casualties, but overall it has withstood any and all Western provocations, including those that began all the way back last year. Iran has withstood sanctions, it has withstood color revolutions, and now it has withstood an armed attack by both Israel and the US, especially in this latest war, this latest imposed war. And because it is a provoked war, an imposed war, I have personally taken it upon myself to coin it a term stemming from its past. The Iran-Iraq War is known in Iran as the imposed war. Therefore, I see it fit to call this war the second imposed war, seeing that it has been imposed upon it by the US and Israel. This second imposed war has seen Iran shoot its position straight to the top, not exactly to superpower status, but a regional power that commands not only natural resources, but industry, diplomatic relations, and the accompanying respect. Iran has not only altered the balance of power, it has also changed how international economics works. It has demanded, along with Oman, a fine on a fee in the Straits of Hormuz, a fee that is now being paid in either yuan or in Iranian riyals. And now it is going to use that money to rebuild itself. And Oman, being another beneficiary, has leapt upon it eagerly. Oman has been a long-standing party to negotiations between Iran and the US, and its foreign minister early this year had declared that it was Israel that was the biggest troublemaker in the region and not Iran. Pakistan has taken on the intriguing role of messenger between Iran and the US, and it played host to two key meetings, one between what Pepe Escobar calls the Sunni Four, and this latest one between Iran and the US, which has also seen an intriguing third party in the form of Israel attend these meetings. And we know this thanks to the various thanks to the vice president's many calls with Prime Minister Netanyahu during his stay in Islamabad. Iran walked away with what seemed to be nothing, but in effect, it walked away showing the world that the US could be brought to the negotiating table as the weaker party, and the US was unable to provide anything of substance not only on that day but on all days since. Coming to what has happened in China, President Vladimir Putin met with President Xi recently, and his meeting with China shows how different international relations is perceived in Eurasia as it is seen in the US. President Vladimir Putin's delegations included some of the topmost members in his government, and it included both politicians, or rather statesmen, and bureaucrats. Whereas President Donald Trump's delegation included only two government members, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of War, Peter Bryan, and the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of War, Peter Bryan, and the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. The rest were oligarchs. The rest were not members of the government, but had amassed such considerable wealth that they are now the core of US politics. Through their wealth, through their connections, through their control of what is supposed to be public industry. And it is these people who met with President Xi Jinping. It has also been reported by Pepe Escobar's sources that these people did not even bother to mingle with their Chinese counterparts in Beijing. They did not even bother trying to talk to them at a state dinner. This shows how isolated the US not only is, but what its top-ranking government officials and its oligarchs think of others, that they can rule the world because they are above not only other governments, but not only other countries, but other peoples completely, that they do not need to consider the needs of other peoples. Their only objective is to secure really some of the largest market shares they can outside of the US. However, such market shares, as NVIDIA's Jensen Huang was sure to find out, have disappeared owing to President Donald's tariffs, along with his other coercive actions. This also brings me to what President Vladimir and President Xi have what they have come up with during their meeting. They came up with a joint statement explaining that they plan to continue their friendship and cooperation, and that they seek to utilize this as their main driving ideology in international relations, a medium that is far, far different from what the West proposes. The West utilizes imperialism, exploitation, market share controls, and now it utilizes tariffs and closing down of international trade as the means to maintain its power across the world. But these privileges are fast drying up. The US dollar is not the safe haven that everyone used to see it as. In fact, China and now Japan are quickly divesting themselves of US Treasury bills or USTBs. Turkey has actually divested a massive amount of USTBs during the last 2 months. This means that the US will now have to finance its own debt using other means. Other countries will have to pick up the pace. However, there are no takers. There is no confidence in the US dollar, and private investors will also find it unprofitable to invest in USTBs. This leads me to conclude that Eurasia is going to be at the forefront of a new economic system, one that does not see the US dollar dominating its affairs. Instead, BRICS and the SCO will be the ones who determine how international financial relationships will be determined. The US will not be controlling Eurasia's markets, but Eurasia itself will be controlling its own respective markets. This means that countries will be free to trade in their own currencies and in their own resources without having to go through US dollars which could be sanctioned whenever a transaction is being made. This also explains why Iran has been and is currently unable to completely profit from its rather dominant geo-economic position. It has not exactly been reliant on US banking, but it does have the key weakness of relying on a currency. It does not utilize money, as its reals are currency printed by the central bank, whose own staff have been taught and trained in US financial institutions and therefore act only using that rule book. I propose a different solution. Given that Iran is an Islamic country, it ought to recognize that silver and gold are also money, along with grains and various other precious metals that Iran no doubt is wealthy in. It can, if it legalizes gold and silver as money, further stabilize its economy. It can definitely improve and in fact further boost its own economic welfare systems if it utilizes gold and silver as money. For when it does so, people will demand to be paid in gold and silver. Gold and silver retain their value even in an inflation. Therefore, people will increasingly abandon Iranian rials and tumans for gold and silver. And when they do so, the economy will be a far more just economy. It will no longer be prone to inflation. It will no longer be prone to international financial speculations that actually devastated its economy in December 2025 and led to the riots in January 2026. I also propose that Iran take this initiative to BRICS and the SCO. If Russia and China both accept gold and silver as money, their economies too will greatly profit, as they will no longer be vulnerable to financial speculation. They will not be vulnerable to inflation, and the peoples will see their economic status significantly rise with next to no cost to themselves. Indeed, the only limitation to this is what the IMF would do. But that question has already been answered. Israel and some states in the US already use gold as money. And so far, the IMF has remained silent. Therefore, what stops Iran, Russia, and China from doing the same? This is the thesis of Sheikh Imran Hussein. And it is his work that I also agree with greatly. I therefore wish to repeat his position. Iran, Russia, and China, along with the rest of the BRICS members and SCO member states, will find it most profitable if they merely declare gold and silver as money within their economies. This will protect their peoples from inflation, and it will further bolster their economic capabilities at a time when Eurasia is growing, at a time when the West's power is shrinking, at a time when Western financial institutions like the IMF, the Asia Development Bank, and the World Bank are becoming increasingly not just meaningless, but counterproductive. And whilst BRICS' new development bank requires serious reform, something Pepe Escobar can attest to, there is much that states can do right now. Iran has already seen that challenging the US militarily has been worthwhile. Now it must go forward. It must consolidate its gains by declaring gold and silver as legal tender within its borders. And if Iran were to forward this position to Russia and China, it would create waves within international economics and politics in a vein that has not been seen before in world history. At a time when Western imperialism is on the way out, Iran, Russia, and China could step in, and most definitely have to step in to manage this collapse. For that is what Russia and China are doing right now, managing the collapse of the United States and all the institutions that it had brought up in the 20th century after World War II. Finally, I thank you for your attention, and I look forward to your comments. And I apologize if I have stuttered too much. This is my first video after all. And since it is my first video, I would like to hear from you. I would like to listen to your comments, and I might not be able to respond to all of them, but I will definitely try my best. Thank you for listening. If you like what I have said, or you would like to ask any questions, please do so in the comments. Please and subscribe and share it if you liked my video, if you liked my points. If you have any tips for me using YouTube, please don't be shy to tell me. Thank you for your attention, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.